My son heard something on the roof last night. Police lights cover our living room as I type this. It was Christmas Eve, and we were tucked into bed, like we should have been. That was when I heard the pounding sound coming from the ceiling. My wife rustled a bit in her sleep, but remained still. I, on the other hand, could not. I got up out of bed and went to go check on my son. When I got to his bedroom, he wasn't there, which scared me. I rushed out of his room and looked over for back at my son when I got to his room, but went down the stairs to the balcony to the living room. There was my son, standing in front of the chimney, next to all the presents my wife and I had wrapped just an hour ago. Great, I thought. It looked like we got no sleep before we had to open presents. I journeyed through down the stairs and made my way past the kitchen into the living room. "Hey, champ," I said in a groggy voice. "Why are you up so early?" My son turned to me and said, "I heard Santa Claus on the roof, and I wanted to come down and see him." I lifted a brow, and as I glanced at the presents, he was steadily ignoring besides him. "Looks like Santa brought you lots of gifts this year. You must have been a good boy." "Why the long face, bud?" My son looked at the ground with a frown. "Santa says that you wrap the gifts yourself." "Oh yeah, you've talked to Santa, haven't you?" He then looked at me down the floor. "He told me not to tell you." This had me a little worried. I wondered if my wife had taken her son to the mall Santa, and maybe he'd been drunk and spilled the beans about the magic of Christmas to our child. "Don't listen to that Santa, buddy. Those presents have Santa's name on them. Now how about we go and open gifts? I'll wake up your mother soon, and I'll make her a cup of coffee. We'll open these bad boys, okay?" He turned back to the chimney, and I went to go brew my wife a cup of coffee. As I brewed the coffee, I could hear my own son whispering something to himself. "Hey, bud, who are you talking to?" He turned around and said, "Santa." He then fell onto his knees and collapsed onto his palms. I looked towards the chimney and saw a long, slim, black and gray, a striped sweater arm going down the chimney, with a long-fingered, bony hand around my son's ankle. I dropped my mug of coffee onto the ground, shattering into pieces, and took a few steps forward. But it was all fruitless, and the chimney absorbed my son, pulling him up towards it. His screams echoed off as the bricks until the only thing I could hear was pounding on the ceiling. No, the rooftop. I ran outside, ignoring my wife's yells from upstairs, and quickly peered up on the roof. There was a tall, scrawny, old bearded man stood where his eyes were shrunken in, and the eyes themselves were pitch black. Antlers extended out from his forehead, stretching out towards the night sky. He had a bulging sack over his shoulder. He must have been my son, squirming inside, begging for his dear life. The bearded man looked over at me, put a finger to his lips, and then leaped onto my neighbor's roof, and then to the next, until he was out of sight. My wife ran outside to me and asked where our son was. I told her to go to the phone to the police, to which she did, and that brings us to where we are now. Police have questioned me repeatedly. At first I gave them the true story of what happened, but then they didn't buy it. I changed my story and they threw it up on me, being shaken over what happened at the end. I told them that it had been a robbery and that my son had been kidnapped. I was told the police before, though, it was my boy had heard Santa on the rooftop, but I don't think it was Santa.